Well, hello. We're here to do a recording for the Black Brown Experience at Texas A&M and Prairie View A&M. Today we have our first guest, round two, I guess, right?
Round two, yes, sir.
So I'm Dr. Rodriguez, professor of history and also director of the Mexican American Studies, and we have one of our regulars, AB. We want to introduce yourself?
Hi, y'all. My name is Abraham Hernandez. My name.
Yeah. What are you, a sophomore? No, you're a freshman, right?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore. Yeah.
Oh, you're a sophomore. Okay. So one of the things we're doing is looking at the African American or Black experience at an HSI and at Texas A&M Kingsville, along with the Latino experience or the Brown experience at HBCU. So one of the things I invited AB to sort of talk to us is about his experience. So AB has a really unique background. His dad is Salvadoreño. Your mom is African American from the Houston area or the Lake Jackson area. And they met in South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley, where AB was raised, sort of raised. Tell us a little bit about, growing up in the Valley, and you talked about maybe where you were born and where you moved, and maybe talk a little bit about how your parents, well, first maybe how your parents met.
Yeah. My dad, he played basketball at Texas Lutheran. He transferred to UTSA after that, and he went to the SEC. My mom, she did track and field at UTRGV, and it didn't take my mom long to graduate. It took my dad forever to graduate. Mm-hmm. So my mom, she was graduating early. Dad graduated late, so they met at SEC, and that's how they met. And then
what's SAC? STC at the college.
Yeah,
college. Okay, did they work there, or how did they meet, or what did they meet in school? Or
yeah,
what?
they met at school.
Okay.
They had to do like their last classes to graduate.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, couple years later, here I am, and I was born in Laredo. I was born there in 2005, and then I moved to the Valley in 2013, and I went to high school in Mission High School. Yeah. So it was pretty good for me. High school, it was a good time.
So you talked about playing, and you also played football, right, at Mission. So, going to an area that's predominantly Latino, right, predominantly Hispanic or Mexican American, and Mission being a little even more than other areas, right? Like, what was that like growing up? I mean, we've been talking about how one of the first things when you walked in here was talking about what I call the Blaxican experience, right? And you looked at me like, what is that? And like, so, because you grew up in two worlds, right? I mean, in many ways, you weren't really Mexican because you were Salvadorian, but you look like a black male, right? So there was a sort of, and then your last name is Hernandez, So what was that like? I mean, growing up and you and your family in a very brown space.
It was honestly, for me, it was normal because I grew up with Hispanic people all my life, so that's all I ever knew. It was funny at times. People would be like, "What's your last name, Hernandez?" And then I'll be like, "Yeah, my last name is Hernandez." They're like, "But you're black," And then I always thought it was funny, but I'll tell everybody I'm 50% African American, 50% El Salvadoreño, and then they were like, what? And then I was like, El Salvadoreño, and they're like, you're Mexican, the same thing. So I'd be like, okay. But
yeah, no, I mean, I think that's one of the distinctions in the Valley. So, I mean, if you have a name like Hernandez or any Latino, they sort of just said, okay, you're Mexican, right? Mm-hmm. So you finished your career at Mission High School, and then you decided to go on to where, and what was that like?
After Mission High School, I decided to play football at Mary Hardin Baylor in Belton area. It's an hour up north from Austin. It was different because growing up, it was me and my sister and one or two other individuals were the only African American students growing up in school and high school. And not only that, but like in the Valley itself, there wasn't too many African Americans either. So anytime I went somewhere, like we had like games or meets or whatever, everybody, all the black kids knew each other. It was a cool thing. So, but there were times growing up, I was like, man, I wonder what that must have been like, going to school with like more and other black students. And whenever I went to college, my first semester at UMHB, I got what I wanted. I got half. Most of the people there were white over there, but the football team, it was predominantly African American students, and it was cool. It was growing up. It was always like, man, you're too black. My black, the other 50% of me would show sometimes and be like, man, you're black, like you're so black, you know. And whenever I got to college, like my other 50%, my Hispanic side, it would show up too. And then they were like, you're weird, like you're Hispanic, you ain't even black for real, you know. And it was never, I was never in a, I wouldn't say safe space, but a safe space, but it was, you know, I had both worlds, so I was never just 100% on one side, you know.
Yeah, and what do you think that's done for you? Or I mean, because you're very in tune with, both sides of your upbringing, right? Both your Latino side and your African American side, and we've had many conversations about when you come to here, and you're always welcome here, right? You're like one of our. Not only is AB an athlete, he's a very good student. I mean, almost a 4.0 student. So we have these conversations over and over about. I think the first time you came here and we started talking, and you're like, "What do you mean black skin? What is this
Yeah, I
thing?"
remember when I first came in, you said black skin, and I was like, "What's that?" You know?
Yeah, and we've continued this conversation, right, for a while, and I think that it's a beautiful thing. So you spend one semester at Mary Hardin Baylor, then you decided to come to Kingsville. Why Kingsville of all places?
That's the school that reached out to me whenever I hit the transfer portal, the first school, and it was the best option for me.
Right.
So I jumped on it.
So you get here from Mary. I mean, I'm sure you had heard about Kingsville already being in the Valley, but you get here, spring semester probably, right?
Yes, sir.
And now you're transferred to not a white school, but a very Latino school, right? But not only that, a rural school on top of that. And I mean, many of your players now are from the Valley or from Metro Houston or parts of San Antonio. Now, what has that experience been like, being an Afro-Latino or a Blaxican, as I call it here, or just identifying as a black male in a school that's predominantly Latino?
For me, it felt like I was back at home, back in the Valley, because it's predominantly Hispanic here. So whenever I transferred over here, I was like, okay, like I feel like I'm back in the Valley. I feel like I'm back at home. There's like more stuff I can relate to, from like growing up back at school, back in the Valley. So it's been pretty good. It's been real good for me actually. The students here, most of them are Hispanic. So this is just me. I really don't see race or gender or whatever. Just I try to see the good in people. That's just the way I am. The way I grew up. On the football team, we do have some African American players, and we do have some Hispanic players also, and it's been cool. It's same thing. Like for the full 100% African American students, they'll be like you're not even like the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, you get the idea. You get it from both sides, right? Like
you get it from both
you're
sides.
not black enough, you're not Latino enough, but yet you find this space that you kind of thrive in, right? I mean, one of the things I found interesting about you is that, first semester we saw you came by maybe, once every 3 weeks, maybe a month. Now we see you every day, which we appreciate that. But I mean, what does a space like this mean to you? I mean, the Mexican American Institute now has been open for a little bit over 2.5 years, going on 3. And I mean, you've had some interest. I mean, I've heard you sort of, talk to students, your fellow students that are not athletes, and engage in conversations about, you say don't talk about race, but we do talk about race, right? And so ideas of belonging, ideas of space, ideas of, just being a student. And what has this space meant to you? I mean, I think we've talked a little bit about, having an important space where students can sort of gather, but what does it mean to you?
It's a great space and great way to bring students together, bring students to come and congregate with each other. It's an amazing place to like learn about each other. Be like, hey, like we come from the same background. We can have like the same thing growing up. Wow. Like just really, it really does bring people together. And whenever I first came, I was like, what is this place? And then I never heard of it. And then whenever I came, like you and everybody else, y'all just welcomed me with open arms, and y'all was real y'all showed me great hospitality. And it's also like a great way to like also interact with the professors as well, the professors that do come in here. And it's also a great way to like learn like about your race. Also, I know when I first came here, you were teaching me about like my 50% stuff I didn't even know about. And I remember I went back to my grandma. I was like, hey, is this true? Like, is this what happened? She was like, yeah. And then she was telling me more stuff, and I was like, hold that. I'm gonna go back to college. I'm gonna go check, make sure it's correct, and I'm gonna come back and just, I learned so much about my El Salvadoreño part of me, just the small amount of time I've been here,
No, I mean, and that's what we want to do. I mean, we need people that are willing to engage in these conversations, So we want to continue this conversation. So, the university has been almost open this coming year 100 years, and we've had a long legacy of Black students, African American students, specifically a lot of athletes, right? What do you think your legacy is going to be here, man? After you leave, like, what do you want to be remembered for?
Man, well, for sure, I want to be remembered, my performance for football, but I also like do want to be remembered as like, like being good and kind to others, like being remembered. I was like, oh, AB, like he was the dude, like he was cool to others. He was always kind to people, and I want to be remembered and leave a legacy in like a positive way,
So let me get a little deeper into the conversation here. I mean, we've talked about you going from high school, a predominantly Latino space, brown space, to Mary Hart Baylor, not so much white space. I mean, a brown space or a black space. Then coming here, but I mean, this is me from the outside looking in, right? I still see you hanging out with more Latinos than I do. You see you hanging out with African American or black students, and why do you think that is? I mean, even that they're not even athletes. I mean, it could be just regular students, right? Like Encarnacion, for example, or others. I mean, I do see you every now and then, but I mean, I see you still come back to like the Angels and the Carnies. You know what I mean? Why? What do you think that is?
Yeah. I guess also because it is a predominantly Hispanic institute. That's just the people I hang with most of the time. There are times where I'll hang with African American students. Most of them though are athletes here, but the few that are just regular school students here, I'll also talk to them and say what's up to them also. I think just with me, like, it's what I know, it's what I grew up with. It was just something I can relate to. I can always be like, that's how it was for me growing up. Like, ain't nothing changed,
Nice. And what about dating in this particular university, right? I mean, it's majority Latinas, right? A few African Americans. Do you kind of get the same sort of? You talked about by other males, like, oh, you're not black enough, or you're not brown enough. I mean, is that the same kind of sense you get when you date here?
Nah, I know growing up, I would, I was surrounded by Hispanic women most of the time, and that's who I kind of like wanted to date, leaned on to date. And growing up, it was always like the feelings were reciprocated, but it was always I can never take it to the next step of dating them. And I was always like, I wonder why that is. And come to find out, is because of the parents. Is because of the family. I don't know why. Like growing up, it was always like they wanted to keep it like inside the race.
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people, right? I mean, I would ask your mom, like, what happens if she went back to Lake Jackson or the Third Ward in Houston with a white boyfriend or husband, right? Or I think there's issues, and they're not real, right? They're constructed in people's minds, right? This idea, the social construct. So I had the same experience when I went to Texas State, and I went the opposite way. I had been dating Latinas all my life, and I started dating women of color, right? And I would get pushed back by other black males or other black females, right? And that said, well, why aren't you racing? Why aren't we good enough? Stuff like that. So it was a really interesting space, right? I mean, we talked about it like when I went to Texas State, right? I wanted to hang out with Omegas and Kappas and Sigmas. And my classmates wanted to hang out with people from the Valley. And I'm like, I always tell my students, I go, well, you come away from the Valley not to hang out with other people from the Valley. You want to get to know people, right? So that's one of the things I really appreciate about you, that you were able to, extend yourself and actually, put yourself in these spaces and talk to people that are from different backgrounds.
Yeah. And I think like here is college, it's the next step of your life. Whenever you get here, like what you thought was what was normal for you, you got to like make some adjustments, and we're all pretty much grown here at college. So it's not mom and daddy like
Sure,
telling me what to do. Like you're a grown person. Like you should be able to talk to whoever you want to. Like if you have feelings for that person, doesn't matter.
yeah.
What race they are, whatever.
So you're in a college town, and we talked a little bit about this already, right? That college sometimes doesn't mirror the university, and so sometimes like places like where you went to Bernhard and Baylor, the university is sort of isolated from some issues of race and gender and stuff. Have you had any problems or felt like you didn't belong in the city of Kingsville or even in the greater coastal Bend area, Corpus? How did you feel? I mean, I think in the valley you felt comfortable because everybody knew who you were, but here there's most definitely a distinction of the city and the college or the university, right? Have you ever had any issues out in the city or being a black man?
Honestly, no. I haven't had a single bad incident since I've been here. It's been really good to me. Everybody here, in Kingsville, they've treated me with respect and um in the city. And I don't really go to Corpus that much. I'll go see my uncle sometimes. But the city of Kingsville and the college itself has been really good to me. I haven't had any problems with it. They've been really good.
Nice. So, what's the future for AB? I mean, you're getting, not that you're getting close, but you're about halfway in your academic career, and so, what's the future, man?
Honestly, I'm just trying to see how far this football thing would take me. I'm after I get my bachelor's, I'm still debating if I'm gonna stay here for my master's or I'm gonna either go back home or just go somewhere else up north. Um, I'm just really just praying on it, really deciding like, all right, like what's gonna be the next step for me right now. I'm
So,
just trying to take it one day at a time.
you talk about grad school, right? And you talked earlier about in other conversations about maybe attending an HBCU, because you talked about also maybe when you started your academic career going to Prairie View A&M, right, and visiting Prairie View A&M. So, is that something you'd like to do? Maybe attend an HBCU in the future?
Absolutely. I remember Prairie View was like the second college I ever went on a visit, and whenever I was over there, I was like, this place is amazing. And I would definitely love to go to HBCU. My mom, she was really pushing for that for me, growing up, and I decided to continue playing football, but after that's done, and if I'm not still doing that, I would love to go to HBCU.
Nice, nice. Well, again, man, thank you for everything. I really appreciate everything you do for us, man. Everything you do, we're always here for you. And
Yes, sir.
thank you for sharing your story, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.